one of the possible explanations where there's not been an immediate regime change is because there's a much stronger middle class who are actually a bit too comfortable. Am I right or wrong?
No, it's not comfortable. It's scared. And as I said from the beginning, the Iranian culture have never been revolutionary, unlike the Arabs or others. You shoot a couple of them at a protest, everybody runs away. Again, I'm not insulting them. They're human. Half of them will flee the country, become refugees. They go to Turkey or whatever. The other half will just stay quiet because they know what happens if they even arrest you. They torture you, and it's rough. So, but in recent years, especially 2022, 2023, we did see a different wave where people didn't really care anymore. There was a moment where they had nothing to lose. So people got a little bit optimistic when Mahsa Amini was killed by the IRGC for not being modest enough. But even that, eventually the regime won the crackdown, because even though we were thinking, oh, this could be it, but we forget that while the regime have smaller numbers, they are vicious. And at the time, and there is evidence for this, during those protests at the time, they used to bring in proxies, Hezbollah members, and other allies from essentially the Arab Islamists to come to the streets and beat up the people, because they knew that those guys have no sympathy towards the Iranian people. And the evidence has always been out there with videos of those people speak Arabic when they're chasing down the Iranian people. So, but they've lost the proxy.
So these are Arabs, these are Arabs living in Iran.
Well, no, they bring them in probably from Syria or Lebanon. Of course, these are like...
there is an Arab population in Iran.
Yeah, but they're not Islamists. You know, there's a small chunk in the south of Iran who are Arab. They're just normal people. But these are the actual proxies of the IRGC, the Hezbollah members and the Hezbollah of Iraq and the Syria Shia militias who are now, I don't know where they are because, of course, Assad is gone. So they used to come to Iran to help the regime because some of the own police officers on the street didn't want to beat up their own people anymore. But that's gone now because the proxies have been completely destroyed, almost basically by the IDF. So they now struggle. So all the intel I'm getting from Iran is that they have right now, as we speak, checkpoints everywhere. It's literally like the 1979, just post the revolution, where it was basically a war zone where they had to basically make sure everybody who was pro-Shah is arrested and taken out. It's like that again, but they are struggling with the checkpoints. The intel that I'm getting, at least, is that they don't have enough people. They have to keep moving people around from the checkpoints on the streets. Like 4 people here, okay, move 2 of them, 3 of them come back. That other checkpoint is now empty, but they have guns, and people are terrified. But as of today, which is obviously filming, it's the beginning of July, some protests have started.
Have they?
Some, and we have to be objective. And this is primarily at funerals for the Iranians who've been killed. One thing that the media is not talking about.
So not the IRGC or the Quds members or the nuclear, we're talking about civilians.
Civilians. One thing the media has not covered since the so-called ceasefire is that over 700 dual nationals and foreign nationals have been arrested. 6...
Because they're dual and foreign nationals?
Well, because apparently they're spies. That's the accusation. And 6 of them so far have been executed as we speak now.
6 have been executed.
Already,
do you know what nationality they are?
A couple of them were dual nationals, German, American, and I wouldn't know the others, unfortunately, but they would be probably British or something.
Well, that's interesting. So an American's been killed and possibly Brits have been killed.
Yeah, and the issue is this is the number that we do know officially, over 700 people with that. I don't have the exact number, but I can easily tell you that hundreds more or a couple of thousand more of normal Iranians have also been arrested and being tortured. So people are being killed right now, and people are now having their funerals, but the media is not talking about this because since the ceasefire, they're not really covering anything that's happening inside Iran, and they're getting away with everything. They're just going around slaughtering everybody because they're trying to find the Mossad agents. And there are Mossad agents, obviously, because, again, as by the time we're speaking now, the mysterious attacks are still happening at IRGC sites and buildings. Explosions. No one's taking responsibility. The assumption might be that, could be Mossad operatives with the drones that they have, because there's still some of them left. But could be anti-IRGC Iranians. It's some members of the armed forces, who are different to the IRGC, have said to have defected. Not publicly, obviously, but quietly. So we don't know who's doing the attack. We know there are attacks on the IRGC, and we know normal people are being arrested, tortured, and killed. So there are funerals, and we have just received a couple of videos of some of the funerals where people start, because everybody is together because of the funeral, they become confident and they start chanting and protesting. It's the initial gathering of the crowd which is difficult in Iran, because there are checkpoints everywhere. In this country, in the West, you just have to start bringing in a couple of people with signs, and then the others will join them, and then that's a protest. And you could call them or could do a WhatsApp group, 4 p.m. outside Parliament. In Iran, you can't do that. They're checking everything. So it has to be a spontaneous moment where everybody's together and they can look at each other. Can we start chanting now? So the fact that they're just doing it at their funerals, they kind of, I think, know that the regime are not going to do anything, because the regime want them to get it out of the system. You're at the funeral over there, do your chants. We keep an eye on you, but you can do that. Just don't come on the street now. Just do your chants, get it out of your system. That's how the regime has been in place all this time.
And is that maybe combined with the fact that they're somewhat thin after Operation Rising Lion? It'd be worth to get your take on how damaging Rising Lion was in a few metrics. Obviously, the nuclear aspect, which is the stated aim of the war. As we've just, it's been reported this morning, the Pentagon, after there was one report that it only set back around 2 months, the Pentagon now say it's been set back 1 or 2 years. Then there's, of course, militarily how much they've been set back. It seems that they were set back in terms of their air force pretty dramatically in 2024 with the two sets of conflict in April and then later October, November with Israel. But if you're following this war, it's like, oh my gosh, they're significantly behind militarily. They didn't, any of the things that we feared that they might have, any of the, I can't remember what, they had crazy names, some of these ballistic missiles they had. But it didn't seem that they had worse than a Khyber missile or an Emad missile, which are horrific, terrible missiles, but they could have had worse.
Cluster bombs inside.
The cluster bombs. They did use a cluster bomb. At least one.
Yeah, we saw the evidence on the walls in Israel.
So I'd like to, and then there's the actual, how much has been done to the regime itself. So the IRGC, the Kurds, like how much is a setback? Obviously, the Ayatollah's been kept alive, spared. Trump said he could take him out.
Still in a bunker.
Still in a bunker. What's your analysis of how much damage was done by Operation Rising Lion?
I think firstly, we have to talk about the perception of the Iranian people. Again, I don't want to speak on behalf of all the Iranian people, because a chunk who would feel like this. I think a lot of them, including people like my dad, who got a little bit excited, Israel is finally doing this. I think Israel being pulled away towards the end when they were being successful, I think it's kind of emotionally and psychologically affected people. Even those who were basically against the regime in Iran, they're like, oh, you didn't finish the job. Why? We were winning. So there is that to deal with, because they saw Israel, and the narrative from the Israeli government came across as slightly more robust, slightly more transparent than the American side. When the operation started by the IDF and the IAF, they basically didn't really talk much about the nuclear thing. They said, we want to eliminate the threat from the IRGC. They didn't really say regime change, but they basically said, well, our problem, the problem for President Trump is different. They just don't want Iran to have nuclear. Fine. Our problem is different, because they are the godfather of terrorism and Islamism. They've got proxies next to us. We now have to go to the head of the octopus. So that's how they saw it. And they were taking out everybody. And the air defense system was completely destroyed, basically weakened. All the regime people had to go into hiding. And I think, again, we don't know exactly what sort of conversations happened in Washington and in Jerusalem, for example, but there must be a reason why that had to happen, because I think maybe if Israel had continued, it would have actually resulted in regime change. And this is my just opinion. And then regime change would have been blamed on Israel or the West. It's not a good look, especially after what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Perhaps that might be the reason, because there's no reason, if you're winning, why you should stop. If they were struggling, then that makes sense.
Let's just dig into what it is exactly to be winning, because I think there's a very good, from both the Israel point of view, the American point of view, and the Iranian anti-regime point of view, that the allied Western forces should not be involved in regime change. And one obvious example would be that if whatever the next regime is, even if it's popular within Iran, and even if it's pro or sympathetic towards Israel and the West and wants good, peaceful trading relations, etc., if the hand of Mossad or Israeli IDF, Israel, or the hand of America was in any way involved in regime change, it would undermine its legitimacy, even if there was a minority within Iran against it. So in a sense, that's a good thing, right? So when you say your father is unhappy that they didn't finish the job, what more did he expect?
So my father is like me. So we neither of us agree that Israel or America or anybody should directly be involved with regime change, because the reasons you mentioned as well. But
if you enjoyed that clip from the Winston Marshall Show, remember to press like and subscribe, and you can watch the full interview if you press here.